Hello, Soul Seekers. I want to thank you for showing up today to co create with me a more soul inspired life, leading you to greater abundance, greater purpose, and more love and compassion. I wonder how many of you, if you're aware of it, wake up in the morning and think about what you don't have. Think about all the problems in your life. Think about all the negative things. By default, I think most of us do that. We wake up and we think what we need to do, or how tired or how exhausting that's going to be, what we don't have. And when we are thinking in that mode, we are actually at a lower frequency. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about frequencies. One of the ways to stay connected to your soul and live your life through going through your soul, not just your mind or your feelings, as we discussed, that can be helpful but sometimes trick you, is to stay on a higher frequency. Now, that isn't natural for us all the time. I think it's actually more natural for us to be on lower frequencies, worrying about the future, stressing about the past, being self-condemning, and those things will definitely keep us on a lower frequency. I like to look at it as, like, if you think about radio, you have like channel 92.5. Okay, that might be depression, and you've got 107.6, and that is going to be more like joy and gratitude. And you can't be on one station. You can't be listening to 107.3 if you're listening to 93.5, whatever I said that station was. So the first thing is just to be aware of where you're at. I think it's nearly impossible to always stay at the higher frequency, but the more you practice this, and I want to really emphasize the word practice. This is a practice. This is nothing that we can perfect. I don't believe there's any perfection in the world, so learning to accept imperfection is part of perfecting yourself. So you can be on a higher frequency level in your day, or you can be in a lower or somewhere in the middle. And I'm sure once I tell you a little bit about them, you're going to recognize, where you're at. And for that soul connection, for the energy that runs through us, we need to try to stay on the higher frequency. When we're in the lower frequencies, that can cause depression, irritability, stress. It is very hard for us to be in touch with our soul. And again, our soul is what knows what's best for us, unlike our mind and our heart sometimes. So what is a higher frequency? Well, basically, I'll kind of break it down to the three areas that I did from my last video. Physically, how you feel physically, how you feel emotionally, and how you feel mindfully. So a higher frequency, physically, you're going to feel lighter. You are going to feel more sensations from your senses, because when you're in your head and you're not like living in the moment, you don't necessarily notice the sensations with your body, what you're smelling, what you're seeing. You're kind of unaware of what's going on. So if you're in a higher frequency, you're going to have more energy, you're going to feel more focused, and you're going to have a higher immune system, and you're going to be healthier. So the more we can stay in that higher frequency level, it's just going to be better for us physically. We're just going to feel better. Emotionally, we are going to be able to feel more happiness, more peace, more grace, more acceptance, more connected to others, more self-love. It's just going to feel better. Mindfully, we are going to, when I say mindfully, what I'm talking about is what's going on in our brain. which is not our soul. Our soul can show up in our brain, but they are two different entities. So mindfully, if we are thinking from our soul place and a higher frequency, we will have positive thinking. We will have gratefulness. We will be feeling love, acceptance, courage, all the things that basically you want to feel. Lower frequency, on the other hand, which I'm sure we've all experienced, physically it's going to feel like we're heavier, we're going to be tired, it's going to be harder to do things. We might even be klutzier. We're not going to be on our game. And our immune system's going to be lower, so we're going to be more susceptible to illnesses. Emotionally, we're feeling wise. On a lower frequency, we will be sad, depressed. We could be experiencing anxiety, grief, apathy, just a general not feeling well, something's off. And so that is the lower frequency. And it is on a scale. So, I mean, you can have some days where you're really down here, and then some days you're more in the middle, and then some days you're feeling that higher frequency level. So on the lower frequency level, let's see, I think I went over physically and emotionally. Mindfully, you're going to be having negative thinking patterns. You're going to be distrustful. You're going to think maybe somebody's out to hurt you. You are going to think that you can't do things, that you're not worth it, have low self-esteem. And when we are in those lower frequency levels, what happens is we create blocks to being the greatest we can be in all areas of our life, whether it be family relationships, love relationships, careers, just enjoyment, peace, acceptance. So why we want to work to be in a higher frequency is, one, we can connect up with our soul, and our soul is actually connected up with source, which for everybody, whatever your source is, if it's God, if it's Buddha, if it's Allah, if it's just an energy that runs through all of us, the universe, it really doesn't matter what you claim your source to be, but it is there. So if we are on a higher frequency, we are able to get to that source better, make better decisions, we're able to come at the world better, we're able to have more intuition, where if we're coming from lower frequencies, which again, work on fear, sadness, or whatever, we're not going to be making as good decisions. We are going to not be as efficient. We aren't going to be able to get to our higher purpose, and we're going to create those blocks. Now, some of us have learned how to stay in a higher frequency level in certain areas of our life, like maybe in career. You've already know how to stay at a higher frequency, or you're at the top of your game, you got it down, you're doing great, but then you come home and the family life isn't so good. And then for others, maybe, you have a really good loving relationships, but then when you go to work, your self-esteem isn't up, you're comfortable around people, you feel that maybe you're not capable. So it's learning about recognizing where you're at with these frequencies in different areas of your life, and then learning the skills to try to raise those frequencies. Why raise those frequencies? Again, you're going to just live, it's going to feel better. You are going to attract more of the positive towards you, because that energy also attracts the energy. So, you've probably had a day where you woke up in a bad mood and maybe you're a little klutzy and you broke a glass, and then the next thing you know, everything you're trying to do is hard. It's just like you can't even do anything without it being difficult. Well, just to recognize that I'm in a lower frequency. And then you probably had days where you wake up feeling good and really, thinking some positive thoughts about life, feeling inspired. And those days just seem to go simpler. The answers come to you easier. There's more direction. There's more acceptance in being who you are, where you're at. There's more forgiveness. There's less self-judging. So it is important to understand where you're at in these frequencies and how to start to work to change them. I mean, it is kind of a learned skill. I don't naturally, in a lot of areas, by default, I think we stay in lower frequencies. And the reason we do isn't because we're like, oh, we want to feel bad, but we have preconceived notions from our own life experiences that have kind of put those in us, those thoughts, those belief systems in us that help create those lower frequencies. For instance, like if we want to talk about money, and maybe you feel like you have trouble attracting money, keeping money to you. Well, you might have had beliefs installed in you that you bought when you were younger that, it's hard to come by money, or money's evil, or you have to work so hard for your money. And so because those beliefs are so instilled in you, that creates that block, therefore that lower frequency in that area. Now, maybe if it's in relationships, it could be you had something instilled in you when you were younger, and it's kind of in your subconscious. It's not like you're really aware of that or think that necessarily. For some of you, it might be in your conscious and you might be aware of it. But if you were abused in any way, if somebody said harsh words to you, that stuck in the brain in those memory cells, you might think, I'm not capable, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve it. And again, you're not consciously thinking those things, but they're in your subconscious. So when you get to that area in your life, it's just harder to keep those frequencies levels higher because you have that block going on. So how to start working towards recognizing where you at frequency level and how to bring up those frequencies, therefore to be able to connect with your soul, which helps us connect to the source, which helps us create the best life for us that we can create. Well, some of the ways to start creating higher frequencies, and I'll start with physically, I'll break it down again into the 3 areas. Physically would be self-care. Sometimes just taking a shower makes you feel better. Moving towards something that makes you feel better. Nurturing yourself with a good meal. Having a cup of tea. Really enjoying that piece of fruit that you're eating. Connecting with nature, huge. I mean, that's almost a given. If you go for a walk in the woods, unless you have some kind of horrible hay fever that you can't be out there, or go look at the ocean or a river, it's just almost going to instantaneously raise your frequency levels. Going for a walk, using all your senses, listening to music, what you're looking at. So if your house is a mess, you're going to just have probably a little bit lower frequency than when your house is neater, because you're going to be looking at something that is making you not feel so good. So moving towards something you feel good. Which reminded me to tell you that it's also important what we bring in our senses. That can affect our frequency. So if you're the type that watches a lot of, like, say, Lockup or crime shows where there's a lot of negativity going on, or maybe the news brings you down, just by allowing those things to come in. Facebook's a big one. It should be positive, but I think it's turned into more of a negative thing now, where you start looking at it. And if you pay attention, you might be in a decent mood. And after scrolling through a few pages, some days it's kind of positive and you'll have to see cute things that bring your frequency up. But other days, just like, oh, that pisses me off or irritates me. And so there you're lowering your frequency. So by looking at happy videos or watching a funny show, sometimes looking at a comedy script, because again, you can't be laughing when you're depressed if you go back to that frequency level. Also physically, creating balance, meaning making sure you get proper sleep, that you take care of yourself and you eat. You don't let your blood sugar fluctuate, which again, once those neurotransmitters, and you're hungry and it starts creating stressors, that'll affect everything else, your feelings and your mind and your thoughts. So that can lower our frequency. Physically, holding on to soft things, buying yourself a soft blanket, buying yourself a new shirt, getting your nails done, getting your hair done. So there's a lot of things physically that we can do to higher our frequency. Mindfully would be being aware of our thinking patterns. What are we saying to ourselves during the day? Are we saying, I can't do this? Are we saying, looking in the for the negative in people? Are we taking everything personally? Like if someone does act negatively towards us, are we taking it personally, like there's something wrong with us? Or maybe there's something wrong with them that day, and that's why they were a little rude or mean. Are we judging? That's huge. Are we judging others? Are we judging ourselves? Are we judging our abilities? So you want to be careful what you're thinking and trying to keep your thoughts more into being grateful for what you have, having compassion for people even when they're treating us harshly, even if you can't do it at that moment, but later on understanding that maybe they don't see things as you see them. Especially being aware if we're talking to ourselves in a negative way. And I know there's a lot of that goes on. So we need to learn to love ourselves. And it's going to be really hard to stay in a higher frequency if we don't have self-love. I will definitely do another video just completely on self-love, because that's another thing that I don't think is really natural. It's something that we need to work at. Mindfully, I'm going to say one more thing, is having grace. Because when I'm saying you're trying to stay at a higher frequency level, you might be a person that has very high expectations for yourself, and that's not a bad thing. But sometimes what happens is if we don't meet those expectations, like if we didn't talk the way we thought we should have said something, or we didn't get that job that we thought we should have got, we didn't do something the way we should have, then we start beating ourselves up. And if we do that, that's going to lower our frequency as well. So it's very important to have grace and understand we can't always stay at that higher frequency. That wouldn't be like truly living life. We will have those moments where we're lower. And when we are, is to have grace with ourselves to say, you know what? That's okay. I had a bad moment. I had a bad day. Or maybe I wasn't meant for that job. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Most things are blessing in disguises. If you go back over the bad things that happened to you in your life, and you start really looking at them, if you've dealt with them and you've processed them and you've been able to come out stronger, you'll see where it's a blessing. It's only when you haven't dealt with it or you haven't processed it properly and it's still a part of your block that it will keep you emotionally on a lower frequency. So emotionally, with our feelings, we want to just move. What makes you feel good? Are you rushing around too much? Slow down. Breathe. Of course, there's the meditation. That would be one that's both physical, emotional, and mindful. So that's almost the quickest way to get there. And meditation, I'll have other videos on meditation, but meditation is nothing more than slowing your breath down, breathing from your belly, and you are changing your body chemistry. And within changing your body chemistry, you're changing your frequency. And not trying to think about anything. That doesn't mean thoughts won't come in and go. They will. But just kind of letting it all go. And learning to do those slow, controlled breaths. So just try that, even if it's for like a minute a day. And then build up from that. And you'll be able to find your center. You won't feel as frazzled when things aren't going the way. You'll handle your situations better, because this is not about obtaining a perfect life. My 51 years in life experience is in searching all this stuff out, whether it be academically, through life experience, through searching in my own knowledge. One thing I've learned is that you can't go obtain the perfect life. It's not there. And it's not meant to be there. And we'll get into future videos why that's not meant to be. We are meant to suffer. We're meant to have traumas. So one of the secrets of life is it's not about getting everything perfect. It's about how do we show up when things aren't perfect? How are we treating ourselves when things aren't perfect? And can we stay on that higher frequency level when there's a shit show going around us? And like I said, when we stay on that higher frequency level, we are more open to the universe, which then will bring, the universe loves us, whether, again, you want to call that source, God, whatever you want to call it, will bring us the things that we truly desire. So I'm going to stop there. I want to add in one of the other things to help you stay on a higher frequency level is helping others, or looking at things. The one thing, if you can't think of anything else to do to get on a higher frequency level, try to think of things how you would have as a 7-year-old. Because most children, 7 and under, they live on a higher frequency. Going to the store for them is like an adventure. As long as they're in an environment where there's love, putting their pajamas on, getting ready to go night-night is fun for them. Just playing can create higher frequency. So just knowing this isn't enough, though. You have to be aware of where you're at in your frequencies in the different areas of your life, where your blocks are, and that takes time and practice. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's something you're going to, and I'm not going to say it's ever going to happen 100%, but just working towards living more from our soul and less from our mind or our heart, which we can live. We need our mind and our heart, but we want our soul in our heart when it's having feelings, so we know those feelings are true. We want our soul in our mind when we're processing situations or thinking how we're going to react to a situation, because then it's going to come out as the most authentic, loving way versus just a reaction out of anger or pain or hurt. Also, whatever frequency you're creating in the world, it's an energy level. It doesn't stay within our human body. It emits out from us. So it will, even though we can't change other people, and you'll hear me say that a million times, but it will have an effect on others around us. So that's another reason why you might want to stay in a higher frequency level, and life's just better. It's richer. Your problems aren't going away. And as soon as you get rid of one problem, guaranteed another one's coming in. Whether it be career-related, job-related, family-related, whatnot, neighbor-related, legal issues, financial issues, I could go on and on. It's one after the other. So it's not about clearing them all up. Yes, you don't have to go out and create yourself drama, but after you learn to quit creating your own drama, drama's still there because there's, other people will bring their shit to you, and you've got to learn how to process it in a way and react to it in a way, hopefully from a higher frequency, that you can stay in your own power. And when you're in your own power, you'll be able to go farther and feel the limitlessness of your abilities. Okay, gonna stop there. I could go on for days with this stuff, but I know if I put too much out, I'm going to start rambling and not make sense, and you guys won't probably be able to understand it as well. So, I'm going to challenge you to, 1, be aware of your frequencies today. Maybe even rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 if you don't want to do the radio thing, 2, have grace wherever you're at. I mean, if you're in a good level, tell yourself, hey, good job, But if you're at a lower level, beating yourself up isn't going to bring you at a higher level. So you've got to nurture yourself and love yourself to bring you up to a higher level. And start doing some of those things that we talked about, maybe going for a walk or taking a bath or listening to some good music. So I'm going to challenge you to be aware of where you're at in your frequency level through your day and what areas of your life where your frequencies are better and what areas of your life that you need to work on. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I thank you all who've joined me. Feel free to write down questions or ideas, anything you'd like me to talk about. And thank you for watching and liking. And I will see you all in a day or two. And I'm wishing you all a soul-inspired day.